Hi students, in the last class we have discussed about the introduction of welding process, definition of the welding process and practical applications of welding. So today in this class we are going to discuss about the classification of welding process or types of welding. This is unit 5 class 2. In this class we are going to cover these topics. They are number 1, classify the types of weldings or classification of the welding process, and advantages and disadvantages of welding process. Advantages and disadvantages of welding process. So first let us see the classification of the welding process. Let us see the classification of the welding process. Types of welding process. So basically we have three types of welding process. They are number 1, fusion welding, second one, pressure welding, third one, friction welding. So these are the basic welding process. Again in fusion welding process, again we have two welding process. They are number 1, homogeneous welding process, and second one is heterogeneous welding process. So coming to the homogeneous welding process, so under the homogeneous welding process, again we have four types of welding process. Number 1, gas welding. Number 2, electroslag welding. Number 3, high energy beam welding. Fourth one, electric arc welding. So coming to the heterogeneous welding. So under heterogeneous welding, again we have two types of welding processes. They are brazing, and first one is brazing and second one is soldering. So coming to the last one, that is electric arc welding. So in electric arc welding, again we have three types of welding processes. They are MIG welding. First one is MIG welding, second one is TIG welding, third one is shielded metal arc welding. So here MIG welding means metal inert gas welding. TIG means tungsten inert gas welding. So this is the classification of the welding process. So let us see the what is fusion welding process, what is pressure welding process, and what is friction welding process, and what is electric arc welding process, and what is MIG welding and TIG welding. So according to our syllabus, we have only the electric arc welding and heterogeneous welding, that is brazing and soldering. So we have these topics. According to our syllabus, we have these topics. They are electric arc welding and brazing, soldering, and MIG welding and TIG welding. So these are the topics we have according to our syllabus. So first let us discuss the fusion welding. See here, fusion welding. So what is fusion welding? So what happens in the fusion welding? Means in this fusion welding, metal is heated to the molten state and allowed to solidify to make the joint without application of pressure. Means we will not apply the any type of pressure while joining the two metal pieces. So this is about fusion welding. Next, let us see the pressure welding. So what is pressure welding? What happens in the pressure welding? So this is a pressure welding diagram. So what happens in the pressure welding? Pressure welding means, so here in the pressure welding process, the metal is heated to the plastic state, and we will apply the pressure to make the joint. So here we are applying the pressure or force on both sides, from the upward direction, from the downward direction. So we are applying the pressure force to make the joint. Once again listen. So what happens in the pressure welding means, so in this process the metal is heated to the plastic state and we will apply the pressure to make the joint. So here we are applying the force or pressure on the welded joint, okay, on the joint. So I hope you understand pressure welding. Now let us see the third one, friction welding. So what is friction welding? What happens in the friction welding? What happens in the friction welding? So here this is a friction weld. These are the friction welding diagrams. So friction welding is a joining technique, solid state joining technique that weld workpieces by generating heat through mechanical friction. Once again listen, what is friction welding? What happens in the friction welding means, so friction welding is a solid state joining technique, so that welds workpieces by generating heat through the mechanical friction, so this is the friction welding. This is a friction welding. I hope you understand about the fusion welding, pressure welding and friction welding. I hope you understand these type of welding processes. One is fusion welding and second one is pressure welding and third one is friction welding. Now let us see the MIG welding. So what is MIG welding? What is MIG welding? So before that, MIG means, what is the full form of MIG? So MIG means metal inert gas welding. MIG welding means metal inert gas welding. M for metal, I for inert, G for gas. Metal inert gas welding. So what is MIG welding? What happens in the MIG welding means, so in MIG welding process or metal inert gas welding, arc is an arc welding process. It is an arc welding process. MIG welding process is nothing but what? It is a arc welding process that uses a continuous solid wire electrode heated and fed into the weld pole from the welding gun. So the gun feds shield gas alongside the electrode, helping to protect the weld pole from airborne contaminants. Okay, so this is about MIG welding. So now let us see the TIG welding. So what is TIG welding? Define a TIG welding. So before that, what is the full form of the TIG means? Tungsten inert gas welding. So what happens in the tungsten inert gas welding means, so gas tungsten arc welding, or also known as tungsten inert gas welding, is an arc weld. It is an arc welding process, so that uses non-consumable tungsten electrode to produce the weld. The weld area and electrode are protected from the oxidation or other atmospheric contamination by inert shielding gas. So this is about TIG welding process. I hope you understand about the TIG welding and MIG welding. Now let us see the classification of the welding process or types of the welding process here. So we have two types of welding process: solid state welding and fusion welding. So again, in fusion welding, there are three types of welding process. They are autogeneous welding process and homogeneous welding process, and third one is heterogeneous welding process. Now let us see what is autogeneous welding process, what is homogeneous welding process, and what is heterogeneous welding process. See here, when we are joining two metals or joining two similar metals without addition of filler metal, that process is called autogeneous welding process. Once again listen, this is very important. Once again listen, what is autogeneous welding process means? Joining similar metals without addition of filler material. Means if we join two similar metal without addition of filler material, no filler material. That process, that welding process is called autogeneous welding process. Next, coming to the second one, what is homogeneous welding process? What is homogeneous welding process? Means if we join two similar metals, with the help of filler rod, that filler rod should be the same metal as the base metal, once again listen, what is homogeneous welding means? If we join two similar metals with the help of filler rod of same metal, that welding process is known as homogeneous welding process. And last one, that is heterogeneous welding process. What is heterogeneous welding process means? If we join two dissimilar metals, by using filler rod, that welding process is known as heterogeneous welding process. I hope you understand about the autogeneous welding process, homogeneous welding process, and heterogeneous welding process. Once again, see, this is about autogeneous welding process, homogeneous welding process, and heterogeneous welding process. Okay, I hope you understand about autogeneous. So no filler metal is added to the joint interface, that is called autogeneous. Filler metal is added and is of the same type of the parent metal, that is called homogeneous welding process. And last one, heterogeneous welding process. Filler metal is used but is a different type from the parent base metal. Means we will use different type of the filler material from the parent metal. So that is called heterogeneous welding process. Now let us discuss the advantages and disadvantages of the welding process. See, advantage of welding process. So first advantage, a good welding is as strong as the base metal. Second advantage, welding is also useful for the repairing of broken parts. This is a very important advantage of the welding process. So we can join the broken parts by using welding. And third advantage of the welding process, welding can be mechanized. And fourth one is, generally welding equipment is very low cost, means cost is very low. This is another advantage of the welding process. And fifth one is, portable welding equipments are available. So welding permits considerable freedom in design. So by using welding, we can design any type of structure or frames or whatever it is. Okay, so means welding permits considerable freedom in the design sector. Without welding techniques, the lightweight methods of fabrication like aircraft and automotive industries would be unthinkable. So these are the some of the advantages of the welding process. Now let us see the disadvantages of the welding process. So first one, so welding gives out harmful radiation. If we join the two metals, so it gives the harmful radiation and fumes and spatters. So this is one of the drawback in the welding process. And second disadvantage of the welding is, welding results in residual stress and distortion of the workpiece. So this is a very vital drawback in the welding process. So welding results in residual stresses and distortion of the workpiece. Okay, so another disadvantage of the welding process is, so we need skilled person. Without skilled person, we can't do the welding job. And this is another disadvantage of the welding process. Finally, welding heat produces metallurgical changes. The